Let's get right into it. Number 12. The echoes of a scream. Imagine you're exploring an abandoned hospital, the kind where the air itself feels sick. You step into a long hallway and suddenly you hear it. A faint, high-pitched shriek. It's barely there, just a wisp of a sound that seems to bounce off peeling paint and broken windows. You freeze. Was that real? Your brain, in a moment of pure fight-or-flight panic, says, yes, absolutely. This isn't just a jump scare from a movie. It's a very real psychological phenomenon tied to the human ear and the physics of decaying structures. Old buildings, with their uneven surfaces, broken plaster and empty rooms, don't just echo, they trap sound. The specific frequencies of a human voice, especially one in distress, can get caught in the angles of a stairwell or the curves of a collapsed ceiling. This is called a flutter echo. But when your brain is running on pure adrenaline and historical context, it translates that echo into something more sinister. It's not a sound from the past. It's your brain constructing a story to explain a bizarre acoustic glitch. You're not hearing a ghost, you're hearing a memory of a sound, a phantom that exists only in the physics of that specific space and the terror of your own mind. Number 11. The phantom smell of decay. You've seen the movies. The moment a character walks into an abandoned house, they wrinkle their nose at the stench of rot and decay. This is a terrifyingly accurate detail, but it's not always what you think it is. Your brain is a master storyteller, and it loves to fill in the blanks, especially when it comes to sensory information. When you enter a derelict space, your mind is already primed for the scary old house narrative. It expects a certain kind of horror. So when you get a whiff of something that doesn't quite fit, maybe it's old dust or a faint lingering chemical smell, your brain immediately translates it into the worst possible option. It's the smell of decay, the smell of death. This is a phenomenon known as olfactory hallucination, and it's a common side effect of extreme stress and fear. Your body is pumping you full of chemicals, and your senses are on high alert, interpreting every signal as a potential threat. You're not smelling the past. You're smelling the story your brain is desperately trying to tell you to make sense of the overwhelming dread. Number 10. The mirror reflex. Go ahead, try it. Walk into an old empty room with a dusty, cracked mirror. Don't look directly at yourself, but notice your reflection in your peripheral vision. What does your brain do? It turns your reflection into something else. This is a well-documented phenomenon. When you look at your own reflection in a darkened or distorted environment, your brain, starved for new visual input, starts to play tricks on you. Your face might seem to twist, your eyes might look black, or you might see things in the reflection that aren't actually there. It's a survival mechanism called Troxler's fading. Basically, when your eyes focus on one point for too long, they get lazy and stop registering things in your peripheral vision. But your brain, not wanting to be bored, fills in those blanks with whatever spooky narrative it's been cooking up. It takes your own face, and with a few tiny mental edits, turns it into a stranger, a monster, or something even worse. You're not seeing a ghost in the mirror, you're seeing your own brain's horror movie projection. Number 9. The ghost in the machine. You know that creepy feeling you get when a perfectly normal light flickers in an old house, or a radio turns on by itself in a dusty room? That's not a ghost messing with the electricity. It's a terrifyingly mundane phenomenon called electromagnetic interference. Old buildings are essentially giant, ungrounded antennas. Their ancient wiring, faulty circuits, and even the dust particles in the air can create static charges and magnetic fields. These fields are invisible, but they can be incredibly strong. Strong enough to trigger a sensor light, cause a light bulb to flicker, or even give a burst of static to a vintage radio. Your brain, which is terrible at understanding physics and loves a good story, immediately jumps to the supernatural. It's far easier to believe in a vengeful spirit than it is to understand the complex interplay of magnetic fields and faulty wiring. The ghost in the machine isn't a spectre. It's just the universe's way of saying, hey, your house has bad wiring. Number 8. The feeling of being watched. This one is a classic. You're in a dark, empty room and you just feel it. The prickling on the back of your neck, the overwhelming sense that someone is right behind you, watching. This is your brain's emergency system going into overdrive. It's a primal evolutionary reflex. For millennia, humans who were hyper-aware of their surroundings were the ones who survived. This feeling is your amygdala, the part of your brain that handles fear, screaming, "There's a predator," even when there isn't one. The slightest change in air pressure, the faint creak of an old floorboard, or even a sudden shift in temperature can be interpreted as a threat. This feeling is so strong that your brain will literally make up a reason for it, and the easiest, most ancient explanation is that you are being stalked. So when you feel eyes on your back in an abandoned building, you're not sensing a ghostly presence. You're just a modern human with a caveman brain, and it's doing its job a little too well. Number 7. The sound of nothing. We've all experienced it. A silence so complete and profound it feels heavier than any sound. It's the kind of silence you find deep inside a tomb or an abandoned bunker. And after a while, your brain starts to fill it in. You begin to hear things that aren't there, the faint whispers, the shuffling footsteps, the distant creak of a door. This is a form of auditory pareidolia, where your brain, starved of sensory input, starts to make sense of the void. Your brain can't stand silence. It's a sensory deprivation of the highest order, and it's a profound stressor. It's so jarring that your mind will literally invent sounds just to give you something to latch onto. You're not hearing the dead. You're hearing the echo of your own mind, desperate for a sound to prove it's not alone. It's a perfect, terrifying trap. The less there is to hear, the more your mind creates. Number 6. The uncanny valley of the past. This one is a subtle terror. You walk into a seemingly normal but long-abandoned house. There are still dishes in the sink, coats in the closet, and books on the shelf. It's like the people just vanished mid-sentence. Your brain hates this. It's a psychological phenomenon called the uncanny valley, but for places instead of robots. Your mind is trying to process why a place that looks so alive feels so dead. It's too normal, yet profoundly wrong. This isn't just about an empty house. It's about the violation of your brain's expectation of how time works. We expect things to decay. We expect them to change. When they don't, when a moment in time is perfectly preserved, your brain can only conclude one thing. Something unnatural or abrupt happened. The lack of a clear narrative, a fire, a flood, a slow decay, is what makes this so terrifying. Your brain fills in the blank with whatever narrative is scariest, and the most common narrative is a violent or sudden disappearance. Number 5. The feeling of presence. You're in a room and you just know you're not alone. It's a gut feeling, a sixth sense, an unshakable feeling that there is a presence in the room with you. This isn't a ghost. It's a brilliant, terrifyingly simple trick of your own nervous system. You have tiny hairs on your skin that are constantly monitoring the world around you. When something changes, the air pressure, a draft, even a subtle shift in temperature, your body notices it long before your conscious mind does. This is the same mechanism that gives you goosebumps when you're cold, but your brain misinterprets the signal. It's a survival mechanism at its most basic. Something is here. This feeling is so ancient and hardwired that your brain can easily invent a whole story about who or what that presence is. You're not being watched by a spirit. You're just a bag of meat and bones that's really, really good at sensing change. Number 4. The inverted gravity of stairwells. This one is about the physical layout of old buildings. You walk up a grand spiral staircase and feel a strange sense of vertigo or disorientation. You might even feel like you're falling upward, or that the gravity has shifted. This is a very real psychological and biological response to a non-linear environment. Our brains are built for straight lines and 90-degree angles. When we're presented with a structure that violates those expectations, a winding staircase with no apparent end, a hallway that seems to curve, a room with an off-kilter floor, it messes with our sense of balance. The fluid in your inner ear is confused, and the information your eyes are sending to your brain is not matching up with your body's equilibrium. The result is a profound, subtle feeling of terror and disorientation. It's not the ghost pushing you. It's just your body trying to figure out why the world is suddenly sideways. Number 3. The distorted visuals of abandoned spaces. Imagine a room where the wallpaper is peeling, the floorboards are buckled, and the furniture is warped. Your brain, an expert pattern recognizer, immediately tries to find order in the chaos. But it can't. The patterns are broken. the lines are not straight, and the symmetry is gone. This is a subtle visual stressor that can cause a feeling of profound discomfort. It's the same reason we find certain modern art pieces unsettling. They deliberately mess with our visual expectations. When you walk into a room where everything is wrong, your brain is working overtime to correct it, but it can't. This visual distortion is what creates the feeling that the space is sick or wrong. The room isn't just old, it's a visual assault that bypasses your conscious mind and goes straight for your primal fear of chaos and broken patterns. Number 2. The smell of nothing. We already talked about the phantom smell of decay, but what about the smell of nothing? When you walk into a place that has been hermetically sealed for decades, a vault, a basement, a tomb, and the air is completely still and odorless, your brain freaks out. The absence of scent is a massive red flag for a human brain. We are hardwired to use our sense of smell to detect danger, fire, rot, predators. When we get no information at all, our brain enters a state of high alert. It's a kind of sensory deprivation that feels inherently wrong. It's an information void, and your mind fills it with the most terrifying possibility, that you are in a space where life cannot exist, where even the microscopic bacteria that create scent are gone. You're not just smelling nothing, you're sensing the void. Number 1. The Doppelgänger effect. This is a terrifyingly common psychological phenomenon that has been reported by urban explorers, military personnel, and even spelunkers. You're in a dark, confined space, and for a split second, you see someone in the periphery. You turn to look, and they're gone. You write it off as a shadow, but the feeling persists. Later you might see them again, even catch a glimpse of a familiar face in the darkness. This isn't a ghost. It's a profound trick of your own mind. When your brain is stressed, tired, and in a state of high alert, it can hallucinate. This is a well-documented survival mechanism called the Doppelgänger effect, or the third man factor. It's your brain's way of creating an imaginary companion to combat the profound fear and loneliness of being in a terrifying place by yourself. The shadow person you saw wasn't a spirit. It was your own brain, terrified of being alone, creating a phantom friend to keep itself company, a friend that looks like a stranger and appears in the dark corners of the room, a friend that's just as scared as you are. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.